Alrighty, hey there everyone. Today we have ourselves the Shadow Rock 2 by Be Quiet. Alrighty, so as I said, this is in fact the Shadow Rock 2. This would be their second tier, performance-wise, for their current CPU cooler lineup. Now, if you haven't heard of Be Quiet, that's because they're mainly out of Germany. All of this is the product conception, design, and quality control is done in Germany. And just within the past couple of years, have their products, their power supplies, CPU coolers, and now even their first case, the Be Quiet Base, I believe it's called, has been introduced here to North America. So up to 180 watts of TDP support here. Granted, you can more than likely overclock a little bit depending on your chip. Just be sure of your chip's actual specs. So if you want the actual dimensions of the unit itself, we're looking at 122 by 122 by 160 millimeters. That's going to be your height, width, and depth. The weight of the included fan is about 1,120 grams. That's a 120 millimeter, I believe. Their Silent Wings fan. Yep, 120 by 25 centimeters. Excuse me, millimeters. Fan speed is up to 1600, so it's not going to ramp up too much, but that would be the whole point of this. I mean, it is Be Quiet after all. You don't want it being too noisy and creating more vibration than necessary. Now, this will have support for basically all the current sockets on the market, everything from AMD to the Intel side. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get inside this box. So as you get inside, you do in fact have the installation manual. You want to go ahead and read this thoroughly, guys. You get your goop, your thermal paste right here, which this looks like the white, mostly silicone kind of flavor. I would not use this one. If you have something better, get something better. But this looks white, and I'm not exactly sure what is in here. Here's about your limited warranty information, and here comes all your innards and mounting bracket accessories. And I gotta say, this bracket right here, if you've ever said something, oh whoa, that thing's a beast, well, oh, everything's gonna fall out. Okay, this thing is a beast. I mean, I just can't, I can't, yeah, that thing could break a toe maybe. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Don't fear. The more sturdy this is, the less likelihood that your cooler is going to go anywhere. So you get your mounting brackets here, AMD and Intel. I forget if these were in separate baggies or not. It might have just been me that, you know, mix and match them. But you have your Intel ones, which look like this for 2011, everything the 1366, 1150 and such. Then you have your more AMD looking square brackets. And then also all your included screws and the one little wrench which they could have, you know, provided something a little better as far as installation-wise is concerned, because you'll see that installation, unfortunately, so far for this cooler is not a piece of cake. But I gotta say, you know, a lot of people complain about installation with this particular cooler, but many of these huge, enormous heatsink coolers are not very easy to install. So some are harder than others, but in the end, you do have to put a little bit of elbow grease or a little, rather should I say, finesse. And just be patient, because you can easily get frustrated and God forbid your hand slips and you end up with a dead board or something else. So here is the cooler. Look at this beast. This thing is just absolutely crazy. It's just one big cube. That's it. If you're in Minecraft, your CPU cooler would look like this. And this right here, this round Silent Wings fan would be a monster to them, because everything in Minecraft is blocky. Anyway, but yeah, so here's your 120 millimeter Silent Wings Be Quiet fan. Very nice. Has these not dimples but ridges here along the fans that I believe helps with turbulence. So that's certainly going to help you guys out there as far as, you know, keeping the RPMs down, etc., etc. And you can see here you have the little bracket that's going to mount the Silent Wings fan to the heatsink. It would have been nice to see them include another one, because without a doubt, I'm sure you can buy another Silent Wings fan and put it over here, or situate this one whichever side you want. Because, yes, I believe I did, yep, someone else's video, they were able to situate this fan on either side that they wanted, whatever was, you know, whatever's more convenient for you during installation. You can see here a very sexy brushed metal here look with the Be Quiet logo. More than likely you're going to set it up in your computer like this or like this. I mean, just like I said, you can move the fan around, but it's all up to you. And they do cap off the ends of the heat pipes here, which thank God, because many other more entry-level and cheaper alternatives, they don't do that. And you have these little ends that look like nipples coming out of your, yeah, I just said nipples. Did you think that this video was PG? Here's where your fan, your connector is. You have a 4-pin PWM right here, very nice. So you'll be able to control that via your motherboard. Fan controls, you know, BIOS, whatever, if granted that your motherboard has that, or granted that you have a utility in Windows that can help you adjust your fan speeds and fan curves. So here we can see the 4 very thick, I want to say these are 8mm. Let me double check the box here. I'm sure it'll, no, it doesn't say. Doesn't actually say, wait, oh. Yes, in fact, it does say the 8mm high-performance heat pipes. I was correct. You have 4 here passing through the, I want to say, yeah, that's a, I would assume it's a copper base. I'm not sure if it's just nickel-plated here. You know, if it just has a nickel finish, but you do have the little sticker here that you're going to obviously want to remove first. Going to remove that, and you have an extremely shiny base. And I'm going to totally copy Linus Tech Tips. Here's my finger. Look at that. I don't want to touch it because it's going to get dirty, and it's very pretty right now. And I might use this to shave my face with, so I could see myself. So you know what? Again, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into the installation. And cross your fingers for me, because hopefully I don't run out of patience. Alrighty everyone, so here as you can see we have the system put together. Now, one thing I'm going to mention before I even get to any of the results, anything regarding the cooler is I'm going to go ahead and recap, or not recap, or rather explain what system this currently is, so well, many of you are going to wonder. And, you know, so you have a basis of comparison for, but also I'm going to go ahead and explain my reasoning as to why. Well, for one, this is the hottest system I have, and by that I mean heat. And I mean, it's kind of sexy a little bit. It's an older case, though. There's a Cooler Master 690, I believe, and then after that just came the 692, as in Roman numeral 2. But anyway, hottest as in the heat output and amount of power it actually needs to run. It is an older system, so I'm sure I'm going to get some of you that are going to be complaining like, oh, why did you use something current, man? Why does this matter to me? Derp a derp. But in the end, whether it's a brand new i7 from yesterday or from 5 years ago, this baby is still 130 watts or more on the TDP. And by this baby, I mean this is an i7 950 based system, so that's 1366 x58, triple channel memory, plenty of PCIe lines. I got an Ultra X. Is it an X4 850 watt. This thing I just happened to get about a year ago on Craigslist for super cheap. I could not say no. I nearly got it for 60 bucks, but the guy just left it at 80. So anyway, putting all that aside because none of that is really relevant, it is an i7 950. Generates a lot of heat, 130 watts or more, especially if you overclock it. Now granted, it is a locked CPU, so overclocking is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it is doable. Now, the TDP, as I said, is 130 watts. This cooler, the Shadow Rock 2, can support up to 180. And so, whether this is brand new from, you know, 4790K rather, excuse me, you know, or if it's this chip, you know, they're still going to both generate a lot of heat. This one even more so, just because of the sheer fact, you know, bigger or older architecture, not as efficient, so it's using more power, and just the TDP alone, it's clearly going to be a little tiny lava chip. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and actually switch it on. What I've gone ahead and done is switched off this fan. This fan is disconnected for the exhaust, so you only hear this. Alright, so here we have the system powered on. Again, you know, this may not be the best scenario for acoustics here for, you know, showing off the sound. You are hearing a fish tank over there in the background. There's a little bit of resonation here with my voice because I'm in a much bigger room. But the reason why I'm kind of doing this handheld, guys, more kind of vlogish style, because I want to just put emphasis on a couple things that I want to discuss regarding this cooler, and I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. I want to give you a thorough, you know, explanation behind installation and my, you know, final impressions, my conclusion rather. So as you can hear, actually, what am I hearing? That's probably this. That's probably the 560 Ti. But this Silent Wings 2 is pretty much, let's go ahead and fix that. Whoops. I'm really doing this on the fly here. A very beautiful heatsink. I mean, the top, the aesthetics are just great. It is one thick block, and the thermal mass on this thing is crazy. It's awesome, especially for the price that it currently retails for. I would have liked to have seen, for two reasons. One, its performance, but also just for the sheer fact of it would have made it look sexy as hell if they had included two Silent Wings fans. But as you can see, you might hear a little bit of a click, but I'm pretty sure that's this fan, not the Silent Wings, because this is barely running. Like I can see, I can basically stop it. It's barely running. It runs up to 1500 RPMs. It's a very low RPM fan. And yeah, so what you're hearing is, actually what you're hearing is a hard drive. So yeah, pretty much dead quiet. Like I said, you know, maybe not the best system that some of you are going to argue about. I was like, oh, it sucks. But you know, hey, it's what I've got and it's what I can use. So installation, this is what I want to go ahead and talk about now. It was a pain in the ass, but I knew this already, you know, by looking at prior reviews by many other YouTubers. Linus Tech Tips, I forget if Tech Syndicate, Logan at Tech Syndicate worked on this one. I don't remember, actually. I think he only, you know, sort of showcased these coolers by Be Quiet over at CES, but I forget now. Either way, a lot of other YouTubers in general have covered the installation and performance of the Shadow Rock 2, you know, Dark Rock Pro 3, a bunch of the SKUs from Be Quiet. And most of them, if not all, have said that installation of pretty much any of the coolers, including this one, isn't quite as streamlined as it could be. Now, it's not impossible, but it is rather tedious and can be a little difficult, especially if you have motherboards with little heat sinks popping up everywhere, like here. You know, our heat pipes, you know, I have another one over there. This is one of the chipsets here, and I have another one down here at the bottom. And especially with the sheer size of this cooler, you are going to have a lot of overhang with your RAM slots. So, installation, I actually had to remove everything, period, because this particular case by Cooler Master, a much older case, does not have a CPU cutout. You'll see that in a moment. And just to try and sum this up as much as possible, I don't have big hands. I mean, they're not small hands, but I don't have huge hands. However, if my fingers are a little bit thicker, or if my hands in general are a little bit bigger, I probably would not have been able to install this. Many of the YouTubers, Luke over at Linus Tech Tips, Linus Media Group, he said the exact same thing. His hands are huge. He's a behemoth of a guy, over 6'2", 6'3", and big hands. Linus had to help him out with his little petite hands, you know, and help him install it. I luckily got by. I did it, you know, I had to take my time, be patient, and that's another thing about this cooler, or many other coolers in general, because many are tedious with installation. You have to be patient, because if you rush yourself or you get mad, you're going to slip a hand, finger's going to slip, your tool's going to slip, and you're going to brick your board. You are going to kill it. Or you're going to have the cooler installed incorrectly, and you're going to get really bad temps, and just something's going to go wrong. So take your time. If you get upset, take a break, walk around, go get a drink of water, and then come back and tackle it. You'll be fine. If I can do it, you can too. That's like a total commercial right there. If I can install Be Quiet, you can too. Performance. Okay, this is where I'm a little stumped. Now, it could just be the sheer fact that I'm using an i7-950 with 130 watt TDP, even though this thing is marketed as up to 180 watts support on the TDP for whatever chip it's sitting on. I had a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo in this system before. However, I had the Hyper 212 Evo in a push-pull kind of jerry-rigged, you know, push-pull configuration with a Cooler Master fan on one side and a Corsair fan on the other, or vice versa. And they weren't quite running, you know, in the same RPMs. One was running much faster, one was running much slower. And it's a much thinner, smaller, and the thermal mass of the cooler itself is much less than this. However, these both, I have no idea how. Maybe if I add, I really would like to add one more Silent Wings 2 fan to the other side and see how this Shadow Rock 2 performs. But the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo and this Shadow Rock 2 performed the same. I may overlay some graphs here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. But during 8-64 Extreme, I let it run for an hour. And the hottest core on the i7-950 here got up to 64, 65 degrees Celsius. That's not too bad. In fact, that's okay. That's no big deal. And the package itself for the i7-950 was around 50, 51 degrees Celsius. However, the Hyper 212, as I said, got the same results prior with its little push-pull config. Now you can argue, oh, it's in push-pull, of course it's going to do a little bit better, even though it's a smaller cooler, but look at the sheer mass of this thing. This thing is huge and much thicker heat pipes. Both the Cooler Master and this cooler have 4 heat pipes, but these are 8mm. I believe the Cooler Master's heat pipes are about 6mm. They're significantly thinner in size. You can just tell by looking at them. However, I did find some graphs online. I'll probably input these here in the video, but the Cooler Master and the Shadow Rock 2 were kind of neck and neck in many other tests. Granted with, newer, more efficient i7 chips, but they were about 2 to 3 degrees apart. So I'm starting to think with this particular setup here with the i7-950 that I am actually still within margin of error. So in the end, guys, is this a cooler that you should look into? Yes, I'm certainly not going to say that it's a bad cooler. No, it's a great performer. It looks sexy as hell. I love it. Maybe, be quiet. If you guys would like to send me another Silent Wings 2 fan, I'd be glad to test this in push-pull. And I would not doubt that I would probably be able to push about 5, maybe even more degrees, shave rather, off 5 or maybe even more degrees off of the total temps during a load. If I were to do that, the cooler is sexy. It's got a lot of thermal mass. It's bulky. The heat pipes are nice. I love the fact that they've capped off the tops for aesthetics here. Another thing is I could have switched this around so the Be Quiet logo is facing like this, but I specifically wanted the fan, the Silent Wings 2 fan, to be passing through the pipes like this, not the other way around, because it would not as much airflow would be passing through them. Like this, each one is getting getting all its heat dissipated away from its surface area. If I were to flip this around and have the pipes in this orientation, the ones in the middle may not be getting as much airflow. This is the way I see it. So that's why I left it like this. No big deal. I would have liked to have the logo straight up, but that's no big deal. I can live with that. Not to mention this case doesn't even really have a windowed side panel, so I'm not too worried about it. So in the end, guys, is this cooler worth you looking into? Yes. If you do want to overclock a bit, you do want to work on your temps, do look into the Shadow Rock Pro. My situation is very unique. It's a very hot chip. A lot of power is being drawn. It needs a lot of power to run, and it's giving off a lot of heat. And in the end, it could just be me. It could be user error. Maybe I really do have to reseat this. But the only thing I'd like to see maybe worked on is installation. And I believe the only way that they're going to be able to remedy that is by maybe having a few cutouts near the bottom of the heatsink assembly here, the thin area, so maybe you do have more room to more wiggle room for your wrenches, your tools, and your fingers in general. Perhaps that would probably be, I think, the most logical way to go about it, to have more room to install this thing. And of course, in my case, I don't have a CPU cutout, so it was a lot harder for me. I had to remove everything, but that's dependent on the situation. That has nothing to do with Be Quiet. That's not their fault. But in the end, Be Quiet, your Shadow Rock Pro to Shadow Rock 2 rather. Very nice performer. I love this look. It's sexy as hell. I'm going to keep using it, and I'm going to keep tinkering with it. And like I said, I may do a follow-up video if I do a push-pull, or if I may even just end up reseating it to retest again, because I do want this thing to perform a little bit better, and I do believe it can. Anyway, guys, so thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, or dislike the video if you disliked it, and stay tuned for more videos. And as always, thanks for watching. I do want this thing to perform a little bit better, and I do believe it can. You can. It's the CPU cooler that could.